I hope I'm never in a position to have to use it on anybody. It is devastating. It's just, and it is a combat art. It's not a sporting art, which means we don't play by rules. There's no such things as rules in combat. When your life is on the line, there's no limits as to what you need to do or have to do or what have you to protect yourself, your family, your friends, your home. And God forbid I should ever be in a position where I do need to use it. I hope that never happens.
Well, I'd rather have something that I don't need than need something that I don't
Absolutely.
have.
Absolutely.
1, 2, 3, go.
Jennifer Hardy, har.
Believe it or not,
Welcome to the Lawyer Dana Show.
the Lawyer Dana podcast.
Wow, we have a lot to talk about.
And we're going to do it right after this.
Welcome to the Lawyer Dana Podcast.
All right, welcome to the Lawyer Dana podcast. Today, my guest is Master Robert, and you know what? I've even forgotten your last name because
Ryan.
Robert Ryan. That's right. I knew that.
I know you did.
Because I thought your last name was Robert and your first name was Master.
It could be.
So, Robert, tell us a little bit about why and how you got the title Master and what you are a master of.
Well, it depends on who you ask, but my version of the story is I've always been interested in martial arts ever since I was a little boy, saw Bruce Lee on the screen, that kind of stuff. And then in 1995, I was working with Verizon, and we had a sales manager transfer in from California. And I was helping him. I was in IT, and I did everything from my monitor doesn't work to the network's down, so I was all over the place. I was getting him set up for his IT requirements, making sure he had what he needed. And he had some martial arts stuff on his desk, and I asked him about it. And at the time, he was a 6th-degree black belt. His name was Dale Lockwood. And I asked him, well, are you going to start teaching? He said, I am, but I need to get settled here, get my family in from California. It'll be a few months. I said, well, let me know when you do. So in June of 95, he sent me an email. We're going to start class on so-and-so. You're welcome to come. So I went and been there ever since. He retired in 2007 from martial arts, from Kung Fu. And I took over his school. I was promoted to Master of Kung Fu San Soo on March 31st, 2007, which makes me, that's 2007, this is 23, what is that, 16 years?
Yep.
Makes me a 16-year master, or 16th degree master, however you want to say it. The process to get there is rather lengthy. It's a minimum of 12 years in the art, and there are criteria that must be met in order to get there. I progressed pretty quickly because I went to an average of about 10 to 12 classes a week for the first 6 years I went. And then scaled back to about 5 or 6 classes a week. I was at every class Master Dale taught, kids class, adult class, whatever class it was, for the first 5 or 6 years, 7 years that he was doing this. And learned quickly and had some martial arts background a little bit. I took judo when I was a little boy, took karate as a teenager. But I did remember the falling techniques from judo, so I was Master Dale's crash dummy. That's the guy that does all the demonstrations. Like Barry is my crash dummy now.
Yeah.
Which was good because I learned a great deal being his crash dummy. And it was fun. Golly, it was fun when I was young. Now that I'm old, there's certain things just don't do as well as I used to. But that's it. Master of the art of Kung Fu San Soo.
I still would not want to get in any kind of scrap with you.
Well,
there may be things that you don't do as well, but you do them well enough.
Yeah, well, there is that. I've never had to use it, thank God. I hope I'm never in a position to have to use it on anybody. It is devastating. It's just, and it is a combat art. It's not a sporting art. Which means we don't play by rules. There's no such things as rules in combat. When your life is on the line, there's no limits as to what you need to do or have to do or what have you to protect yourself, your family, your friends, your home. And God forbid I should ever be in a position where I do need to use it. I hope that never happens.
Well, I'd rather have something that I don't need than need something that I don't have.
Absolutely. And that's really when I was looking for a martial art, and I've been looking for one, had been looking for one for years. I was looking for that. I was looking for one that is geared toward, I guess, self-defense, hand-to-hand combat, whatever your perspective might be. Really didn't have any desire to go to tournaments and so forth. That wasn't why I wanted to be there. I didn't want to come home with a blue ribbon or the trophy or whatever it was. What I wanted to do was be able to protect myself, my family, and friends. And Kung Fu San Soo fit the bill. And And we don't do tournaments because of that. We don't play by rules. In a life and death situation, there's no such thing as an illegal strike. There's no such thing as unsportsmanlike conduct, if that's the right term. There's no such thing.
I think in doing any kind of competition or tournament or thing like that, it's a different animal. Mm-hmm. It's not self-defense. It's putting on a show.
It is. It's putting on a show.
It's the equivalent of professional wrestling, as opposed to actual real fighting.
Agreed. And we had several people cross over from other arts to join us, and most made the transition pretty well. One in particular, and I won't mention his name because I don't know if he wants me to or not. But this guy was incredible. I was really impressed with his ability to separate what he already knew from what he was learning in Kung Fu San Soo. And then in an open workout, when he put the stuff together, my goodness, he was amazing. Great guy, too, just as gentle as he was good at Kung Fu. I feel sorry for somebody who thinks they're going to take advantage of him. Not going to turn out well for him. But there were some who did not make the transition well at all. One woman who joined us, we were doing a kicking exercise, and I was watching her kicking technique just in the practice, and I'm thinking, man, she is good. So I was standing there with the pad. It was her turn to kick, and I said, okay, I want you to hit the pad. And I showed her where it was. I held the pad up, and I was braced because I thought she was going to knock the crap out of me, and she barely touched the pad. I mean, it was just a little tap. And I said, your form is terrific, and I tried to talk her through it and to get past just the touch because she was point sparring. She wasn't fighting. And I said, I want you to knock me down this time. And we'd worked on this for several days, and it never was more than a tap. And she finally quit because she just wasn't doing it. And that's a shame because she had the form. She could generate the power if she had wanted to, but she couldn't push past the training she already had.
Yeah.
And it was a shame, really.
So, bad habits.
Bad habits, definitely.
Bad habits are in any discipline that I've done, whether it was music and high level of music performance, whether it has been shooting, whether between pistols or shotguns now, it's harder to remove a bad habit than it is to learn how to do something correctly the first time.
That is absolutely true. My gosh, that is I won't call it a profound statement. Maybe it is, but that is absolutely true.
It's something that I wish people knew at the very beginning, because one of the processions that I see people doing is they try stuff out on their own, and they try it without instruction, without learning proper technique, and then they develop these terrible habits that then they finally go, well, now I'm into this, so let me learn how to do it right. And you see a lot of this in golf,
right,
where people don't get professional instruction at the beginning, and with a golf swing, they just develop these terrible habits, and it takes them maybe the rest of their life, and they maybe never break that habit that they established by learning something the wrong way, which is one of the reasons why in taking martial arts, I take martial arts from guys like you or Mike Coffin, who is the Krav Maga that I took before we were doing Sansu, and why I learning how to shoot and shotguns from Lanny Basham, who is the greatest in the world, and Todd Bender, who is the greatest in the world, undeniably the greatest in the world for that sport. And I'm privileged that twice a year, either they or I have to travel the world in order for me to take lessons with them. And I'm also privileged. So in Sansu, it's very difficult that you'll get a black belt and a master together that you can learn from. Well, we had 2 black belts, and is it 2 you and Master Jason, but now Eamon is now a master.
Correct.
So now we have 1 black belt and 3 masters teaching a small class, which is almost unheard of.
It is, and that's true. And you got it. And a little bit of history of Sansu, if we have time.
Yeah, absolutely. We got as much time as you want.
Asian teenager, Chen Sudek, came over to the United States in the L.A. area in the mid-'30s. He was escaping Chinese mob, was running rampant in his town. And a couple of the mobsters attacked him, and he beat the snot out of them. And they were after him. I mean, he was marked for death. So he left China and took an assumed name of Jimmy Wu. and immigrated into Southern California. And then in the early 60s, he started teaching martial arts to Westerners, which caused quite a stir in the Asian community because Sansu, up to that point, was a very guarded art in China. And the 5 families of it, Choi Li Ho Foot Hung, are family names. And these families are the families that held the art. Grandmaster Wu's uncle, Chen Su Hung, was the Hung family of the art. And started teaching it to Westerners, which caused quite a stir in the Asian community in L.A. because he was teaching the secret art to Westerners. And his argument was that if I teach it right, with all the intricacies, and I use the word wisdom, if that's the right word, attitudes and so forth, to go with it, it doesn't matter whether you're Asian or white or black or brown or whoever. And they balked, and he said, go away. He did it anyway, went about doing it his own way. And he had a core group of senior people in his original class, which he started, it was in the early 60s, and I don't remember the exact date, which is shame on me, but it was in the early 60s. And there were 15, I believe it was in that number, 15, give or take a little, of senior people that was his core group. And he would take them aside and give them extra attention. And each one of them have a perspective on Sansu. Now, not all of them were in every class that he did. So he may have said something in this class that so-and-so wasn't there, and then he said something in the next class that this other so-and-so wasn't there, so they didn't get everything. None of them had everything that he taught. And as time progressed, Grandmaster Wu died in the early 90s, and I started in 95, dang it, I never got a chance to meet him. But those senior masters went on and split off, started their own schools and so forth, and they each had a perspective of Kung Fu. My perspective comes from Master Dale Lockwood, who comes from Master Larry DeSotko, who was one of Grandmaster Wu's senior people. Master Jason comes from Master Larry, doggone it, what was Master Ted. I can't remember Master Ted's last name. Getting old stuff stinks. Master Ted was also one of the other senior people. And then Eamon comes from another line. So we got 3 different perspectives on the art. All the same stuff, all the same techniques, all the same concepts, but a little different in application, a little different in explanation, a little different. And that is a great,
Barry comes
Barry, thank you. Barry. I'm at the age thing again.
From a different line of
Yeah, and Barry comes even from a different lineup. So we've got 4 different perspectives on the same thing. And that makes it so much better for the people who are just coming in because they can see it from several different angles. And it is just an incredible class. We've got some really knowledgeable people in there.
And it's interesting because I see the different lineages in each of the 4 of you. It's very much, I'm sure you have your own personalities as well, but
Right.
It's definitely influences of the different ways that you have come about the art, each of you. And it's very, very interesting to learn from each of you.
Right.
And we'll do break-off sessions where there'll be a day where Robert's giving instruction on it. There'll be a day where Jason is giving instruction, Eamon, Barry, because a lot of times we'll break off and they'll, couple 3 or 4 people over here and couple 3 or 4 people over here working differently, and it's absolutely fantastic.
It is, and Master Jason has an incredible knowledge of the art. Really impressed with his knowledge. Master Ted and I talked about it. Thought he was ready to be promoted to master long before he did. He wouldn't accept the promotion until he thought he was ready, and that happened. I'm going to say 3 years ago, maybe 4, perhaps. Since then, Master Ted has passed away. Master Jason and Master Ted were really, really close. They had a much, much more of a relationship rather than instructor-student. They were friends. really close. So it hit Master Jason pretty hard when he passed. But my influence is Master Dale and Master Larry, and his influence is Master Ted. And they're not different. I mean, they're not opposite of each other. They're just different of the same thing, which is good. It's a great combination.
Oh yeah.
Great combination.
And y'all have some very interesting conversations about strategies and techniques that happen there.
Yeah, it's I could talk about this for hours probably.
Great.
Don't know
That's
if
perfect.
anybody wants to hear it, but I could talk
Well,
about this for
Jennifer's
hours.
our litmus test. What do you think about the conversation so far?
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know much about martial arts. I mean, I've watched like movies and things like. I mean, I know about Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, but
So-
and I know they
Jackie
do.
Chan's character. I like Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
Interesting. The story that you told about Master Chu is similar to. I was thinking about what Bruce Lee was going through because the story sounds very similar, and I'm wondering, especially there was a movie in the early '90s about Bruce Lee, and it seems like elements of that movie were possibly even taken. You know, I wonder how much of that parallels Bruce Lee coming over versus
Grandmaster Wu.
Yeah.
Chen Sudek, probably pretty close. Actually, Grandmaster Wu, Chen Sudek, and Bruce Lee knew each other and even collaborated on some stuff for some of his movies and such. He would consult Grandmaster Wu, probably even learn from him. I'm sure Grandmaster Wu learned from Bruce Lee. The thing about martial arts is it's never done. There's always something more. Grandmaster Wu used to say, if you see something that works, you better learn it before somebody uses it on you.
Yep.
Because it's not a closed art. I mean, it's not, okay, this is what it is, and if it's not any of this stuff, then it doesn't count. That's a load of crap. And the art is constantly growing, and society has changed. People haven't, but society has. And application, I mean, the whole thing. So the art never stops. It never stops growing. It never stops changing. It is a living subject, if that's the right word. That's the right way to say it.
It's
And
well
that's true
thought
with any
out
real
too,
martial art.
correct?
Say
I
again?
mean, martial arts is well sought out by people because of the movie industry, I would think.
It is. Martial arts is a very precise execution of counterattack, I guess, for lack of a better word. And originally, and this art dates back, like I said, I don't know if I mentioned it goes back to like 2700 BC, so it's 4,700 years old. And it is documented to be that. There's some sources that say 2,500, some say 4,700, That makes me seem kind of young, which makes me feel good, so I'm good either way. But initially when they were doing this, when they were learning, and what it was about was the monks and the monasteries and so forth weren't allowed to carry weapons. So they had to learn how to defend themselves without weapons, no swords, spears, knives, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And most of them were of a agricultural background, crops and so forth. And you see these tools that they use like short sticks, a staff weapon, bow staff, whatever you want to call it. The kwando, which is similar to a scythe. These were all modified farm implements that they could use as a weapon. They learned to use them as a weapon. A tonfa looks like the crank on a well. The chas, which is Chinese, and sai, which is Japanese, are very similar, except the cha is a little wider at the top. That looks like a hay fork, And all these weapons are farm implements that they adapted to combat. So when they went on their pilgrimages or traveled because they had to sell their goods or what have you, they wanted to be able to protect themselves from highwaymen, marauders, and so forth. And as they did that, they would gather prisoners. They would practice this stuff on the prisoners, see what worked, what didn't. It was pretty gruesome, actually.
Wow.
You learn something every day, huh, Joe?
Don't want to be a prisoner.
So
No.
this is most of the stuff we do, and I say unfortunately, has actually been proven on real people.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't like thinking about it because it is pretty gross, pretty disgusting. But at the same time, you're going to try to take my life. Why is that okay? And me not defending myself, not okay.
Right.
Type thing.
No.
Again, God forbid I should ever be in a position that I've got to use this stuff to protect myself, my wife, my friends, my family, my home. I hope it never happens. Like Dana, too, I'm also got several pistols, and I like to shoot, like to target practice. I like to practice. I read a lot on it. I've never had any professional instruction, but I do a lot of reading from professional writers and have corrected some mistakes, some best things I was doing. I need to go take a class, though, on shooting, at least an intermediate class. And I like rifles, shotguns, handguns. I don't care. I just like going to the range and shooting. Or going out in the middle of a public land and shoot a stump or a horse apple or something. Okay, this has nothing to do with nothing. If you're ever in the field and you got a .22 hollow point, you need to shoot a fresh cow patty. It's the coolest sound you ever heard in your life.
Really?
It is. And
I got to check that out.
And it's got a heck of a splatter radius. Make sure nobody you like is in the splatter radius.
Keep that in mind next time you're at a farm.
Yeah.
But it is. It's a .22 hollow point into a fresh cow patty. Oh, it is. It's cool.
So let me ask you a question.
Okay.
What age do you think is appropriate for children to start learning?
Really, if I was going to make a general statement, 6 or 7 for most kids.
Okay.
But individual children, it just varies from child to child. I would say the youngest period would probably be 5. And children at that age don't need to be taught to the level that we do it.
Right.
They need to be taught more on the order of class bullies, that kind of thing.
Right.
If somebody is bullying you, how can you deal with that, as opposed to this is a potentially lethal strike. I mean, that's not what we need to be teaching little kids.
Right.
But from a bully perspective, I think, yes, probably 6 or 7 years old for the most part.
Okay.
Some kids aren't ready till maybe 8 years old. Some may be ready at 5. But any younger than that, and I don't think that they've got the motor skills, the attention span, maybe even the grasp of discernment to be an effective martial artist. Tumbling, gymnastics, that kind of stuff is a good start, because a lot of what martial arts is, the limberness, the balance, the ability to absorb a strike, a lot of that kind of stuff that we do is similar to gymnastics.
Wow.
So doing something like that as a younger child, for one thing, it's a great way to burn off energy and can teach them some motor skills that they will need.
My daughter's 6, and my husband's adamant about putting her in martial arts.
6 is a decent
she does
age,
tumbling, so.
Okay.
But he wants her to be able to defend herself down
And
the
I
road.
don't blame him. That's his little princess, and she should be able to defend herself.
Yeah.
6 is probably a good age, but find the right school. There's a lot of, and I don't want to diss anybody. I don't want to put anybody down, but there are some schools out there, and they're there purely for the sake of making money. They're not there for the sake of teaching kids anything of any consequence. They just want to make a buck.
Right.
And those schools aren't teaching them, again, not anything of any substance that's going to do them any good out on the street in a self-defense situation or something.
Right. Okay. Good information.
So how many students have you taught over the years?
Oh my gosh. Counting Master Dale, I was an instructor with him. Started in 95, so by 98 I was teaching classes for him. Maybe it was toward the end of 98. Anyway, so since late 98, dang, that's still been 25 years. My gosh.
Oh my gosh, has it been 25 years?
It
Hundreds.
has been 25 years since 98.
I graduated high school
Wow.
in 98, so.
I think of the 90s. So, well, that wasn't that long ago, but it was. It was.
I know.
It
feels like
was. And it's just.
It doesn't feel
the
like
farther
it's been
time
that.
goes, the shorter that really was.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Again, this has nothing to do with nothing, but as a 5-year-old waiting for Christmas, a year is 20% of your life. That's a long time.
It's a very long time.
At 50 years old, it's 2% of your life. Who cares?
Yeah.
So
all a matter of
the perspective of time is different the older you get. It's shorter. So, we're already through January. Come on, of 23.
I know.
Yeah.
What happened?
No, it's so funny because when you're a kid, your parents are like, just stay little, because a kid, you're like, it goes forever. I'm never going to get done with school. Or, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get to summer. You think like that.
Right.
Then you can become an adult and you're like, holy crud, I didn't even get through the day. I didn't finish everything I needed to get done.
You spend your life as a child. I can't wait to be an adult. Then you spend your life as an adult. I want to go back to 10 years old.
I wish I was still a child
Yeah.
with all that extra time.
No kidding. This adulting stuff stinks.
You could have done so much when you were a kid that you're just sitting around going, I don't have anything to do. I got plenty that you could do.
Well, the song "Time" by Pink Floyd, if you've on the Dark Side of the Moon album, that is a really good representation of people's perspective as they grow up, and it is just it's a sad's not the right word.
No one told you when to run.
Yeah, you missed the starting
gun.
Yeah. The sun is the same in a relative way, but it's racing around to come up behind you again. Same in a relative way, but you're older one day closer to death. Sorry, people, I didn't mean to get morbid. But that's
it's a good song to listen to.
It is, because it's a good perspective on ours. And, of course, Pink Floyd is a British group, so they're aiming it at the English population, but it's people in general. And it's just,
I would think that Pink
it's a
Floyd
shame.
got bigger in the United States than they did in England.
I think they probably did. The Dark Side of the Moon album, I don't think was ever number one, but it was in the top 10 for like 4 years in a row, 2 years in a row or
I think
something.
it was in the top 100 for decades.
Yeah.
It's one of the best-selling albums of all time.
Of all time. Yeah, we often go to the Dark Side of the Moon to practice so nobody can see us.
So how is Sansu similar, and how is Sansu different from other martial arts?
Okay, let's good question. That is a good question. And let's start by saying the original purpose of any martial art, whether it was 4,700 years old or whether it was established last week, the original purpose of a martial art is to give one person an advantage over another person in hand-to-hand combat. Because keep in mind, wars between neighboring villages, neighboring towns, neighboring countries, for the first 10,000 years of our existence were fought face to face. There was mostly hand-to-hand combat. You had archers and so forth who could shoot from a few yards away, maybe even 50 or 60 yards away, depending on how well their bows and such were made. But most fighting was done face to face, swords and spears and so forth. And martial arts was designed with that in mind to give one guy an advantage over another guy. So all martial arts intent initially was for that. Keeping that in mind, all martial arts, if done in their original sense of hand-to-hand combat and not watered down for sport, are all viable forms of self-defense. Whether it's Krav Maga, whether it's Hapkido, whether it's Aikido, whether it's karate, whether it's Taekwondo or whatever. If they are taught in their original form to be, real self-defense arts, then they are all viable. Is one better than another? My opinion is Kung Fu San Soo is the best. But I'm a Kung Fu San Soo master, so we could sit down face to face. Maybe a little. We could sit down face to face with a Taekwondo or whoever master sitting across from me, and we could argue till we're blue in the face. He's not convincing me, and I'm sure I won't convince him either. But one thing about Kung Fu San Soo is that it involves the 5 families, the Choi Liu Foot Hung family of the arts. The Choi family is a family of strikes. That's kicks, slaps, punches, chops, elbow strikes, headbutts, what any kind of strike you can imagine. That's the family of strikes for the art. The Lee family of the art is the family of balance. That's going to be the judo, jiu-jitsu stuff. That's the flips and throws, joint locks and leverages, and that kind of stuff. Then the Ho family of the art is the pressure points. and we've done a few pressure points in here. Some of the more common are colon 18, bladder 10, stomach 9, that kind of stuff, lung 5 here, PC 6 here. That's the pressure points of the art.
So you press that, and someone's lung will like.
Oh, no, it's on the lung meridian. What that does is the arm just goes dead. Oh. Want me to show
So
you?
then they can't fly.
Say no, because I'm probably the practice dummy.
Will it hurt?
It doesn't hurt, but it is takes the wind out of your sails, so to speak.
Oh,
Some do hurt,
yeah.
and some of those pressure points I mentioned can easily be lethal strikes.
Oh, wow.
Lung 5 and PC 6 are not those.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, so let's see. Choi Lee Ho foot. Foot was the pressure points. Choi Lee Ho is the pressure points. Foot is the psychology of the art. That's your mindset as to what you are willing to do to survive. That's a big part of self-defense. Are you willing to take somebody else's life to protect your life, or your family's life, or your friends' lives? Are you willing to take another life to survive?
Are you clear-headed and in enough self-control in order to be able to execute your plan and
your training? Yes,
and execute your training.
And
Have
that's
you been
another
disciplined enough to train yourself?
correct to hold a level head in this course of action. Because if you start operating on emotion, pure emotion, you're going to screw it up. Mm-hmm. You're going to lose focus. You're going to lose the edge.
Have I talked to you about Lanny Basham's with this book, With Winning in Mind? He is one of my shooting coaches, but more importantly, he was an Olympic shooter, won silver in 72, won gold in 76, and between 72 and 76 figured out the mental mindset that he had to do in order to go, because he went 3 years not winning anything, but was tied in the top, but he
Right.
never won. He consistently got second every time. So everybody else was shooting for first and third.
Right.
Then he was going to get second, but he couldn't win. So he figured out those mindset things. And one of the questions that he would ask Olympians and high-level athletes, which he now trains and has trained tens of thousands, if not more, of the world's most elite athletes in all kinds of disciplines and sports, and he would ask the question, well, how much of your game is physical and how much of your game is mental? And the common answer that he would get for mental is 90% mental. And then he goes, all right, what percentage of your time do you spend training the mental game? And the answer was, how do you train the mental game? None, 5% maybe.
Bad answer.
Yeah. And so if you like, I'll go shotgun shooting with you. I'm going after the podcast today. If you want to go out to the Dallas Gun Club with me, if you have time and you're available for the rest of the day, but if not today, a different day. But I'll show you the preload and then reload. There's 3 stages that I go through for every shot that I take. A preload where I visualize the shot, and then the action phase where I actually take the shot, and then the reload phase, which is where I reload and redo the shot afterwards. So even if I've missed the shot, on the preload, I have a positive visualization of me doing it right. Every time I visualize myself doing it right, self-image increases. Every time that you actually hit a target, self-image increases. Every time that you visualize it afterwards and reinforce that, the self-image increases. So for every actual one shot that I take, I've got 3 positive imprints if I made it. Or if I didn't get the shot, I've got 2 positives to 1 negative. Still a net increase of the self-image.
Right.
Every
Right.
time. And that's the mental. I spend 2/3 of my actual training, actually probably more like 90%, and 10% of it I think is actually physical. Yeah.
And that's true. I mean, if your mindset isn't right, you're not going to be able to succeed. You can have all the skill in the world, and if you don't have the mindset to survive, then you won't.
Well, in class, you discuss it a lot. Mm-hmm. You discuss, and we talk about that mindset constantly.
Well, it's just like watching someone go out to play sports. you can tell if their head's not in it. Like
Oh, yeah.
they're distracted, something's going on, they can't get focused. You know, I see it in my middle son. He's a very good basketball player at home. Like he can make shots, does well. When he gets into a game, I don't know, it's like his mind, I can tell it's like he's nervous, he's fidgeting a lot. And I'm like, it's his mind. He can't.
Have you read Parenting Champions yet?
I've started it.
Get through that, and then has he read with Winning in Mind?
I haven't. I've given him Winning It with Mine and told him to read it. He read Freedom Flight and really liked it.
Nice.
He's 11, so I thought, well,
That's going to be the secret.
I mean, he was able. Jackson reads really fast, so I gave him the book. I mean, 30 minutes later, he's like done, and I'm
He
like,
finished
Jeez.
Freedom Flight in 30 minutes?
like something
Wow.
like
I think
that.
I spent 2 hours with it.
No, I mean just, and he reads really fast.
Wow.
He does
Impressive.
speech too, and that's the one thing in speech therapy with him. They're like,
That's
he speaks so fast.
Jackson, out of the three, she's got 3 kids, and she can't say that she has a favorite, but I can. Jackson's my favorite.
No, moms can't say I have a favorite. No, that's not allowed.
All my kids are my favorite.
There you go.
Exactly.
Yes.
There you go.
And I figured that was actually the case. But
Right.
Jackson's my favorite.
They
I
ha-
like all 3 of your kids.
They
Don't get me wrong.
they all have unique
But, you know,
things about them.
Right.
yeah.
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 I mean, my daughter's going to be she's the one that I think is going to take over the world.
Could be.
She has that kind of personality, and everybody loves her. No one doesn't know my daughter. I have kids in like my daughter's in kindergarten at another school.
Mm-hmm.
We have kids in middle school that my son goes, yeah, all these people know Zoe. I don't know how they know her. And then at the intermediate
Well, just
school,
wait until
kids know
there's
her.
one day where the wrong kid tries to pick on her for the wrong reason, and she's been taking martial arts
There you
for
go.
7 years.
There you go. Yeah, and she lays them out.
Yeah.
You know, so, but yeah, the Foot family is the psychology of the art. It's also the psychology of the bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
Think about the bad guy.
Exactly.
Most bad guys are lazy. They're looking for an easy target. They want something they can get in and get out. Because the longer they're there engaged in this, whatever the activity is, the more of a chance for them to get caught, get arrested,
Yeah.
something to go south. They don't want that. So they're looking for easy targets. And they're easily distracted because most of these guys are just thugs.
And lack discipline. The fact that they're the bad guy, it
Right.
represents a lack of discipline that they've got.
Right.
So,
In the movies, that laser-focused bad guy, he's got other things to do than be the bad guy.
Yeah.
yeah, the
'Cause
movies.
being the bad guy is not the right way.
No.
Yeah, the bad guys in the movies are almost non-existent. I read an article recently about the highly skilled, high-dollar assassin and so forth. That person doesn't really exist. Assassin for hire, by the way. I'm sure there are assassins that work for governments and so forth that are highly skilled, but they're not on the
Few and far
internet.
between.
Yeah, you know, they're going to give you $10,000 to take out so-and-so or $10 million or whatever it is. So those high-dollar assassins don't really exist. Most people that are hired for a hit are somebody that's down on their luck, needs money, and have no morality. And then the final family, the Hung family of the art, is a family of physical fitness. And that doesn't mean going out and running 10 miles a day and bench pressing 500 pounds or whatever the heck it is, but maintaining your body in some reasonable form of condition so that you can take care of yourself, which
I
I've
like
let
that.
slide.
I like how it's all the families and each represents something.
Yes. And so the Chinese name of the art is Choi Liu Foot Hung Kung Fu. And when Grandmaster Wu came over here, he thought that was a mouthful, so he just called it Kung Fu San Soo. And originally, he called it Karate Kung Fu because most people in the United States didn't know what Kung Fu was.
Yeah.
And so, again, what's the best art to take?
The one that you do.
The one that you will do and do well, and the one that teaches you hand-to-hand combat, self-defense, not sport, not point sparring. Point sparring puts you at a great disadvantage if you get in a scrap on the street.
Some that my personal assessments are I like Sansu Kung Fu. I like Krav Maga, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What's the one where it's the one where they do all the kicking and
Taekwondo is a lot of kicking.
Taekwondo is good, but there's one. They're real lethal with it.
Kickboxing. I can't think of what the Thai name is. It's a Taiwanese art.
I think it's the Taiwanese one.
Yeah. Well, I'll be darned.
I know, right? I once asked someone, what's Greg's name? The answer was Greg. I'm having that similar.
Yeah, exactly.
A word that I
Hey.
know and
Yeah.
I know it.
Hey, wait till you get, you think it's bad now. Wait till you get older.
Well, I
Gets
don't know.
worse.
It's been happening to me since I was in 5th grade, so I think it's. I don't think it's
It
any
gets
better or
worse.
worse, does it? Oh, yeah, okay.
It really does. Now, you won't be able to talk by the time, anyway. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. It's fun. Again, God forbid I should ever need to use it. Same thing with my gun. I left my pistol in the truck. I always have one in the truck. Probably 90% of the time I have one on my hip.
Well, in mentioning that, so on concealed carry weapons, there's a lot of discussion. Well, what's the best one? Well, the 45 would be the most powerful. Well, 9mm is good. Well, 380, 9mm is about the same size as 380, and 380's got less than half the power. But a 380 is maybe going to kick less. But this little 380 is going to kick a little bit more than this one. And a 1911 has less recoil than a Glock. And then you can carry a 22 or all these different things. Here's the thing. It's the one you're going to do, the one that you're going to carry. Typically, people that the first concealed pistol that I bought was a Glock 30S. Loved it. Carried it for about a year. But turns out, as I got more of them, the smaller that the gun was, the more likely it was that I was going to put it in my pocket. The less hassle that it was, and I just gravitated towards more of the pocket pistol type, and have other ones around. But and if we're driving, if we're going on a long trip, yeah, I'm gonna be in a situation where I can defend against a group of marauders if necessary, as opposed to areas where I know I'm not going into necessarily a bad area. I don't have to have 200 rounds on me, something like that. It's just a different level of preparation for different things. But if I'm out in the middle of nowhere and might run out of gas, might have a car problem, might lose cell signal, all these different contingencies, the longer the trip is, the more prepared I am going to be in order for me to have the lethality that might become necessary, should it become necessary. And then I hope to God that I never use it. But I'd rather have something that I don't need than need something I don't have.
Exactly. And as far as the caliber thing, with modern technology and bullets and so forth, wound channels between a 45, a 40, and a 9mm. There are differences for sure because the 45 is a bigger bullet. But in penetration and so forth, and like you said, the best gun to have is the one that you can shoot well and the one you're going to carry.
And that's the thing is shot placement more than power of the shot. A
You
22, you shoot if it contacts and you place that shot well, it will do the
can be
job.
lethal.
No problem.
Yep.
And there was I forget what show it was, but they were going, "What's the zombie apocalypse gun?" And it was a 22 long rifle.
Was that The Walking Dead?
Well, no, it was some show. It was a gun show where they were like, if you really had to go through that many people, what's the best one? And it was 22 long rifle. Why? No recoil. You put the shot right where you can put it. You can put shot after shot after shot after shot. And for zombies, the assumption was they're not going to have body armor or be, they're just dumb zombies type of thing or animalistic type of things. And you can, if you had to, because for a zombie, if you shoot him in the body or arm, theoretically it doesn't do anything because you have to shoot him in the brain,
Right.
Have to shoot
And
them
so,
in the head.
so
Or
the
heart
best,
shot,
yeah,
head or
right.
heart.
So the 22 long rifle was the shot plus. The ammunition is 10 cents a piece as opposed to
Hollywood's
50 cents or
confused
$1.
me with zombies.
And they're super easy. You can carry 1,000 rounds in a box this big.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's inexpensive. You can carry
yeah,
a lot
but
of it. And you
there's
can shoot it all
different
day
types
long
of
without it.
zombies.
sure there are, Jennifer.
There's the ones
Hey, do
that
you know-
walk real slow, and then
Jennifer,
there's
do
the
you know
ones
do you
that
know
like,
exactly do you know
run.
exactly how to determine whether your house is haunted? It's not.
He's being Dana right now.
I know.
He's being Dana.
First off, I don't believe in zombies, and I don't think that will ever.
That was
Oh,
the
I know.
point.
But I'm just saying, the way Hollywood does
been,
it, you got
She's been
like,
watching
all
Resident
these-
Evil. I can tell.
No, I actually used to.
Jennifer, this is a reality
started
podcast
watching
here.
the new one. It's with Daniel. It was a video game, and now they've made it into a series.
Halo?
No.
Oh,
It's-
Halo's actually was a video
This
game.
is a
That's actually a good
brand
show.
new one. I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's like
Is it Greg?
no. the guy's name is Joel in it. The Last of Us.
The Last of Us?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Is it good?
Yeah, but these zombies are like the people get this fungus or something, and they become zombified. But they're like they chase them like they're fast.
Hopefully that won't go Among Us.
Well, and that's true in Resident Evil. No, Resident Evil, they're slow. In Half-Life, they run.
What about that? Did you see that Brad Pitt movie, the something of Z?
World War Z,
World
yeah.
War Z. Have you
No.
seen that?
That was a good movie.
Was it?
I thought
I
so.
need to see that one. I haven't seen
I
that
thought
one
it was good. It was not a fast-moving movie, lots of drama, but I thought it was well done.
Yeah.
So movies and martial arts in movies.
Ha!
Here, let's go off on this tangent.
All right, let's do.
So, what do you think? You want to talk about most movies, which I would imagine are completely garbage and unrealistic, or are there any that are good? What are your thoughts?
I thought Jackie Chan did a pretty decent job.
Well, the thing is, martial arts, keep in mind that movies, everything is choreographed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jackie Chan shows those stunts at the end, not the stunts, I'm sorry, the outtakes at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And he said the reason he does that so that people can see that you do get hurt doing this.
Yep.
And, you know, some of those stunts he does, even though in the movies it's flawlessly executed, he had to do it 10, 12, 15 times before he could get that flawless execution.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of stunts, a lot of in fact, it's all choreography, not a lot of choreography.
Yeah.
It's all choreographed. Are there some legitimate moves in movies? Absolutely. There's some legitimate strikes or flips, throws, leverages, what have you. But if you're looking at the whole picture, it's choreography. It's Hollywood. And most of it, when I say most of it, probably 99.9% of it is just that. It's Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to base your entire martial arts experience on what you see in Hollywood, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Really. And I don't want to be callous or rough or cruel about it, but Hollywood is just that. Hollywood is there for entertainment.
Right.
It's not there to show you how to fight. That's
Correct.
not the idea. Does Bruce Lee do some real things in there? Yes, he does. But is the entire movie legitimate? No, it's not. Same thing with Jackie Chan. Same thing with Chuck Norris. Same thing with Jet Li. Mm-hmm. You know, none of them, those shows, those movies, are choreography. Can those guys fight? Sure they can. Are they good? Absolutely. But is that what the movies are about? No, the movie's about entertainment.
Do you think Chuck Norris in his competitions was just doing touches, or were they actually?
There was more contact than just a tag, you know, just a tap. There was more contact than that. Chuck Norris started martial arts when he was in the Army and stationed in it was either Japan or Korea. I can't remember which. So when he learned initially, he learned from a combat perspective. Mm-hmm. So a viable martial artist he is. One of the things that all these martial artists have in common is control. Being able to control how much contact they make given the circumstance. And Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, Jet Li, Jackie Chan, all these guys, and some of the lesser-known guys who are extraordinarily good, I think, and haven't had their, what's the word I'm looking for, their break in Hollywood, never got recognized for what they were. And if you ask me their names right now, I'd have to stammer and stutter because I can't think of one. And I'm trying to. Did you see The Expendables 2?
Yes.
The one with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Jean-Claude Van Damme is a great guy, just a really nice. He did a heck of a job of the bad guy on that show, by the way. But as far as martial arts, my opinion, and this is Robert Ryan's opinion, is he's probably not up to a level of the other guys. Because because
His
most-
athleticism certainly is.
Yes, his athleticism is, his limberness and so forth.
Yeah.
But most of his martial arts for the purposes of movies. Rather than he learned martial arts and went into the movies,
I
he learned
actually
martial arts when he
watched
got to the
something
movies,
about
I
the
believe.
Expendables.
And but I got a great deal of respect for Van Damme because he is a good guy.
So here's a question:
They-
Jean-Claude Van Damme versus Al Bundy. You know Ed O'Neill. Ed O'Neill is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes.
Wow, did not know that.
Yes. And he studied it for many years as a
you
serious
know?
discipline.
When you say stuff like that, what about so and so against so and so?
I know, right? It's a total.
It's a
Remember, this podcast also is for entertainment purposes.
It is for
so there's
entertainment?
a little bit. It's
Oh, well.
educational and entertaining.
Well, if it happens on Tuesday or Thursday, Van Damme's going to kick his butt. If it happens on Monday and Wednesday, then Ed O'Neill's going to kick his butt.
And that's
if it
because-
happens any other day, they're going to sit down and
That's
have coffee
because
and talk
at
about
Big
it.
Ray's Barbecue, Tuesday and Thursday is when the baked potatoes are on special.
There
so
you go.
eat one of those, and you're going to be moving a little
That's
bit
right.
slow.
You're going to be moving a little slow. There you go.
No, they said
Okay, so-
Sylvester Stallone, though, out of all those Hollywood actors, was the one that you didn't want to mess with.
You know, Sylvester Stallone did take some boxing and so forth for his Rocky movies, and he does a lot of his own stunts. And in this last Rambo movie, there was one fight, and I haven't seen the movie yet, but there was one fight, and I can't remember who it was with, but he wanted it to be a real fight. This wasn't choreographed, and whatever they got. They weren't going to do it twice. So they were out there slugging it out, and I haven't seen the movie yet. So
Oh,
don't
I
know
saw
what
that
the
Rambo
wanna see-
movie.
The
That was-
last one, the most recent one.
That was the Rambo?
Yeah, it was
Is
the
it-
most recent Rambo movie.
The one where the
Was it-
girl
is
is
it-
kidnapped into
yeah.
Mexico?
I don't know. I haven't seen the movie yet.
Oh, that was a good movie.
Yes.
And it was very not woke, and which
It
was excellent.
It was
Yeah.
a great movie.
It was actually realistic about what's actually happening, except I don't think many of those girls are getting rescued. But
Oh, you mean trafficking and so
yeah,
forth?
it was,
Oh my
he
gosh.
rescued his daughter from trafficking, and then the cartel followed to his land where he had it Rambo booby trapped and everything.
Yeah,
and
because she ended up dying, and then
Did she?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
She didn't make it. She on the way home, she dies. And
there's
so
no way
is-
he would have lived through what that
He
was too. He
was
should have died on that
hot.
porch at the end of the thing, but
Yeah.
whether or not he did, I mean, they left
Yeah.
it ambiguous so that they can make another movie, obviously. But
Yeah, make another one.
I really
This was
liked
supposed to
that
be
movie.
the last one. I have to watch it because I haven't seen it. I want to see it. I just haven't seen it yet.
Okay, so Sylvester Stallone versus Jim Gaffigan.
Who's Jim Gaffigan?
He's a comedian. He does the Hot Pockets thing. Hot Pocket. Starts out, his first joke is moving a little slow today. I had a Hot Pocket for breakfast.
Ah,
You know, they have diet Hot Pockets now.
I know.
You read the instructions, it says, removed from wrapper, placed directly in toilet.
Nice. Nice. My wife made a chocolate cake for my dad one day, and she told him it was it was regular chocolate cake. And Dad said, "How's it diet?" She said, "It served 50." Anyway, yeah, that was fun. But yeah, Sylvester Stallone has skills. I mean, they all have skills. But keep in mind still, with a very few exception, everything you see in movies is choreographed.
Oh, yeah.
And it's designed for entertainment. It's not designed for reality.
So Michael B. Jordan in the Rocky movie that he did, Stallone took one of the boxers, the extras, the other non-known actors. He had a lot of actual professional fighters that were obviously pulling punches and things, and he takes the guy and he goes, "So, hey, on this one, give him a real one," and he knocked him out one punch.
Yeah.
And apparently, if you're going to be the star of a Rocky film and in the ring, one of your rites of passage is you're going to get knocked out as your badge of honor. And that happened to Michael B. Jordan. And he you see him, he gets hit, he straightens up, he's just boom, straight to the mat.
Where was he hit?
I think it was in the face.
Oh, in the face? Okay.
Yeah.
Jaw?
Yeah.
Yeah. A straight-on strike to the tip of the chin or even to the side of the jaw, seventh cranial nerve is right there by the jaw. If that nerve gets pinched, you're unconscious.
Oh, wow.
And that's what the glass jaw effect is. Somebody gets hit in the jaw, that nerve is pinched, and you're unconscious. So that's not unusual. A jaw strike to many people can cause that. Some people it takes less of a strike than others, but anybody is susceptible to it.
So if you plan on being a boxer, you need to take these classes too.
Well, the
'Cause
more that
you
you
need
learn
to-
about your art, the more
Yeah.
that you learn about your art.
If you plan on being a boxer, wear a motorcycle helmet.
Oh, joke.
Otherwise, you get dopey because of the. They call it that. It's a syndrome, and there's a specific name for it. Muhammad Ali had it to some extent.
Well, it's probably the same one that the football players are getting.
Yeah, something similar to that. Yeah.
Where I mean, you X-ray their brains, and every time that they took a hit, they would have these
Well,
like bruises, basically.
No,
or
they're- they're damaging
Yeah.
their brains.
yeah, they're damaging
Yeah.
the brain.
And then eventually the brain's going to die.
Well, and it leads them to be, they lose their minds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's similar to the aging diseases, Alzheimer's, or any of the dementia type diseases. It's similar to that.
Accelerates it
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. No,
So,
thank you.
So tell us more about pressure points.
Oh, well, there's over 200 pressure points on the body, and in traditional Chinese medicine, these pressure points are used for healing.
Acupuncture.
Acupuncture, exactly. Acupuncture and acupressure, they can be used to relieve stress. They can be used to relieve pain, to relieve specific maladies, allergies, for instance. Do I know all that stuff?
need
I know
that.
about it, but I don't know it.
Well, I have had acupuncture many times, and
I've noticed you got a few more holes than most people.
I know. I told them, hey, I need a few more holes in my head. And
Yeah,
they,
there you go.
They obliged.
Yeah.
Actually, I haven't.
Did they
I don't
leak?
think I've had any in my head ever, but I've had them in my back,
Mm-hmm.
arms and legs, and things. And at first, I thought it was nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Some, astrology equivalent, just
Right.
witch doctor, nonsense, magic, hokey
Right.
pokey stuff. But
It's real.
it's very real. And my chiropractor, who I have imminent trust in, recommended that I get acupuncture. And at the time, I was so bad I couldn't walk. And I finally broke down. I was like, whatever, I'll try it. And the first time I went in, and I found a really, really good acupuncturist, and changed my life. It was one of the greatest
amazing.
experiences that I'd ever had until that point in life. You have to make sure you get somebody that absolutely knows what
Right.
they're doing,
Yes.
obviously. But
And they're getting harder and harder to find.
it
these
was
days.
great. And on those times where I've had, because I have a back issue,
Right.
and so it has been the key to curing that and making me whole and well. And
How often do you go to an acupuncturist?
so I probably don't go enough. I think it's even better for dealing with stress. But assuming that you don't have any particular problems with your body, I should go once every couple of weeks, or once a month or something. I don't go near enough. I get plenty enough chiropractic. I get the right amount of chiropractic. I go as much as I can from Dan.
Right.
And I try and go Monday through Thursday, which are the days he's open. He's not open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And if I can go on those days, I go. And if I'm in town and all that. And if I'm out of town, what I worry, the better shape and better overall I am, then the less I worry about not getting a chiropractic adjustment for a week. But there have been times, and with certain things going on, to where I've had to go to alternate chiropractors even when I go out of town. I have one of those joint chiropractic memberships, so that way I can go somewhere. But it always worries me of going to somebody new, doesn't really know what's going on.
history.
Yeah, and could mess me up. I'm very hesitant on that. So I have that for the absolute emergency of I can't walk today, and we're going to spend some
Right.
time educating this brand new person on how I'm going to get adjusted. And I bought a card because I happened to go in right on their annual sale, and they had a card like you can buy 10 and they don't expire. I've used 2 out of the 10, and both of those in Orlando, and it was okay. But for acupuncture, I find it to be tremendously relaxing and very, very, very therapeutic. I feel like it's my me time. And actually, the next time I go in, so I think I'm going to book a double length appointment so that I can just stay there longer, because I also have issues sleeping. Acupuncture would probably improve my sleeping disorder.
Probably.
much more than any other thing that there is. And when I'm there, I just want to lay there and just get to that. If I can get into that deep sleep and then leave me there even for a little longer, because I don't know, it takes 30, 45 minutes, but I would love to book like a 3-hour appointment. Just let me just lay there and just sleep and go and, ring a bell if I want to get out early. But it's phenomenal for that. But it also does. So what happens in my lower back is I'll have a disc that'll bulge, or I'll have muscles that spasm. And when my muscles spasm, it is like taking your arm and going flex as hard as you can for days. And there's nothing I can do to make it stop, and that's not good, especially for a muscle in the back.
No.
And with the acupuncture, it releases those muscles, and it works miracles.
It does. Traditional Chinese medicine with the herbal remedies, if you want to call them that, the acupressure and puncture and so forth, the Chinese have done well for thousands of years with that. So to say that it's invalid doesn't even make sense. But it is. It's real. And it's starting to become better accepted by Western practitioners now.
Well, it's because
still got a ways to go,
the
but it's becoming
propaganda
better.
from the medical industry, you can't patent a plant. So if there's a plant that solves the problem,
Big
you're not going to
Pharma's
ever
gonna
hear
block
about
it.
it. Big
Yeah.
Pharma is going to try and kill it, actually,
it's
and
gonna
they're going to
block
try
it.
and simulate it chemically to chemically
Well-
make
Right.
this what's the active ingredient, they call it in the plant.
Well,
whereas they could actually
generations
just
are
do the
getting
plant.
wiser too.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to medicine, well, it's just like the other day. There's a diabetes medicine out there that is causing cancer,
Oh, great.
and I mean, come on, like someone.
I think the cure to diabetes for the vast majority of people is having a proper diet.
Diet
Diet and exercise.
losing
Agreed.
weight, and yes,
That's not absolute, but I think you're right. For the majority of people, that's the way it is.
But I have relatives, a relative in particular, I'm not going to mention him because I love him to death, but who was asked, would you want to do this with diet and exercise, or would you rather just take a pill? And he says, I want to take a pill. I don't want to change my diet. I don't want to exercise. It's like,
I hate taking
but
pills.
the pill isn't going to solve the issue.
I know it's not as well as diet and
Treats the
exercise.
symptoms. It doesn't solve the problem.
All of my
Treats the
health
symptoms.
issues to date, well, not all, but the problematic health issues that I've had have all been cured with diet and exercise. My back problem cured with diet and exercise and proper treatment and chiropractic and adjustment and acupuncture.
I mean, don't sell medicine short. It does have its place and it does work.
I agree.
But too many people rely on that rather than doing the right thing, taking
Right.
care of themselves.
Right.
And I think that's becoming more and
Medicine
more
needs
prevalent.
to be a supplement.
I think people are getting lazier and lazier,
Yeah.
and they're looking for a pill to fix everything rather than putting forth any effort themselves.
Well, and the American diet
that's a
is,
shame.
is in general there's a lot of trash in the American
oh, come
diet.
on. What's
It's
wrong with hamburgers
garbage.
and french fries?
It's not even that. It's just like going to the grocery store and like things we had even as a kid doesn't even taste the same anymore because they just fill it with so
much
much
processing.
sugar
Yeah.
and
Sugar.
processed.
Well,
Yeah.
and
I think back-
preservatives are
Yes.
I think back to being a little kid and having like a little Debbie snack. They were like the oatmeal cookies,
Yeah.
with the cream fill.
Yes.
Okay, I remember
Those were
like
so good.
being really young and thinking how good they taste, but then as I got older, they've changed them. They taste
They've
like
changed
they're
it, yeah.
chemically tasting.
Well, even soft drinks. When we were kids, we bought a classic Coke. It was sweetened with cane sugar. Now it's sweetened with corn syrup. It's not the
Yep.
same.
Yep.
No.
It is not the same.
Well, and it's a lot cheaper.
It's a lot cheaper, and that's why they did it.
But they're still
there's
charging.
Mexican Cokes
Yeah.
that have the cane sugar in them.
Yes.
And those are apparently a delicacy that people like.
I went, Barry, when we were working out in his garage, after Kung Fu, we went to a little Mexican restaurant down the street from his house, and it was run by a Mexican family who didn't speak English, really. Their kids, we have to order from their kids because mom and dad, I mean, it's great, wonderful people, just as sweet as they could be. The food is amazing. And they had Mexican Cokes there, and I got one. Oh, my gosh. I hadn't had a classic Coke in so long, and that was because it was cane sugar, not that corn syrup mess. It was so much better.
But to that,
So much better.
Cokes are unhealthy as crap.
I don't care. Them sugar Cokes are good. Okay, I've had that once in the last 10 years. Hasn't even been that long.
Almost
you know?
anything in moderation.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's
Except
true.
for me, it's with the inflammation issues from things that I were eating. Because Dan put me on his table, my back's hurting, and he presses on I don't know whatever is here, like my stomach.
That's in the area of the spleen.
Yeah, barely. And it hurt like hell. And he's like, this is not from a mechanical issue with your back. This is from inflammation from your diet. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I made a permanent lifestyle change.
And then there you go. And in some things and in some circumstances like yours, there's some things people don't need to eat, individuals. Mm-hmm. And it varies from person to person. Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, there's no such thing really as junk food. It's how much of it do you eat? Are you living off hamburgers and French fries? You know, are you living off Dr. Pepper and
I think
Doritos or
Michael
something?
Phelps may have
Yeah.
proved that. When you're having to eat 8,000 calories a day,
Yeah.
some to a certain extent, you're getting vitamins in, and some of it is you just need fuel to burn and to turn into
Right.
energy.
Right.
And so, I think what the problem is most of the American diet is out of balance.
It is.
Well, people aren't working out like Michael
Well,
Phelps.
that's true.
You're not
I used
swimming.
to.
But
like
he was
that.
also eating a nutritious diet in addition. So if you're
Yeah.
getting all your vitamins and minerals and everything, then you can kind of eat that crap. Plus, he also was young and exercising that
That's
much.
True,
Yeah.
but
you
even
can
if you're
burn
eating
through all
a
that.
fairly well-balanced diet, you can still eat too much of it.
Yeah.
Eating too much is a problem with the American society. I eat too much. My gosh, I get so dang hungry. I'm in there and I just open a refrigerator and turn it up. You know.
So I do too, and I like to eat my fill. I
Me too.
like to eat, and the way I get around that is just I eat less often. For example, on Fridays, I get up, shower, deal with whatever.
We appreciate the shower, by the way.
You're welcome. Deal with whatever for the law firm in order to come to the podcast, and then
Right.
we film the podcast, and then I go directly from here and I shoot. So I fast basically for 24 hours, and that helps because and there are days where I will gain 3 or 4 pounds, and then there are days where
You
the
lose
weight
it all.
comes
It's the other
comes
way
back.
around, yeah.
Yeah. And if you ever weigh yourself at night and then weigh yourself in the morning. I find weigh yourself at night, then get up in the morning, use the bathroom, then weigh yourself. I find about a 3 pound difference.
And that's
yeah.
true. My understanding is that if you're going to weigh yourself on dieting, weigh yourself in the morning before you have anything to eat, drink,
Correct.
whatever. I mean, drinking water, what have you. I keep water on my nightstand at night.
Yeah, it's
I
good
drink
to do
lots
that.
of water.
That's excellent.
But if you're going to weigh yourself before you have a glass of milk or whatever you're going to have, whatever, weigh yourself then after a good night's sleep. That's going to be your nominal weight.
Because you sweat out, you breathe out quite a bit of moisture. And then if you get up and go to the bathroom at all during the night.
Right.
Another thing actually for your health is if you do get up and go to the bathroom or at night is to drink at least a couple of sips of water. There's major health benefits that I won't go into now.
Well, you
but-
should start your morning every morning with 8 ounces of water before you do anything.
Yeah. You should have it on your
It is
nightstand and drink
it is a kickstart to your metabolism.
Mm-hmm.
If you do not do that, your metabolism is. If you're having a sluggish metabolism, it's because you're not getting in that first 8 ounces of water.
That's interesting. Because I always have a hard time going to sleep, and I always have a hard time waking up. Once I'm awake, I like to stay awake, and once I'm asleep, I like to stay asleep. And I really like to sleep, but I also really like being awake. It's the
Well, make up
transition
your
between
mind.
the two. I know that's a problem.
I have a hard time in the mornings too.
I have done
mean,
things like stay awake for 36 hours and go to sleep for 18. Mm-hmm. I have tried that schedule, and I kind of liked it.
so dangerous.
It was just a little weird because one day your day would begin with daylight. The next day your day would begin with nighttime, and it throws you off. And I've tried 24 and 12, which again you cycle between day and night.
Right.
And mentally it's weird.
It is. Well, yeah, that'll mess you up.
The physical
That'll
sleep,
mess up your body clock.
yes.
Well, hence my current sleeping disorder for the rest of my life. I had a lot of different problems with that.
Yeah.
You ever take melatonin?
Yes, and I've had issues and problems. I prefer not to take melatonin. I took melatonin once in this past week, and it was the first time I've taken melatonin in probably 6 months. But I was getting so off and so having difficulty falling asleep, and so I took it that one night to kind of backed me back up to sleeping there, and I've been good and regulated since then.
And take it about an hour before you go to bed. Don't take it as you go
Correct.
to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
I don't need it to. I don't have any problem falling asleep. Like
You're blessed.
it's like a certain time of night, my body is like, all right, you're done.
Yeah, for me,
Like a light switch.
for
It
me,
is.
it's almost always work to make that happen, or I have to trick myself, or I have to listen to music or be watching something. I can fall asleep with the TV on. Summer
yeah.
cannot.
I can do that too.
I need to. And when I was a kid, I used to use music to fall asleep to, and I would be thinking about the music and thinking about playing it and learning the music. And that's one of the ways that I learned how to play music well. And
Relaxing.
I would go off into that fantasy land, and without that, I have a very difficult time sleeping. But Summer is the exact opposite. She needs quiet and can't have any of that. So the question is, am I going to sleep in headphones, or is she going to sleep in earplugs?
Yeah. See, I can,
Serious. And
I can
it's
sleep with
80 or
the-
90% me on headphones.
I can sleep with the light on. I can sleep with the TV on. I can sleep with noise going on. Like, it doesn't bother me.
I used to be able to.
I lived on the Air Force Base on the flight line. I can sleep through anything.
I can actually sleep without direct light directly on me. There can be light in the room as long as it's not beaming
Well,
straight.
yeah, not
straight to
straight
me.
in my face. But yeah, it doesn't bother
But
me.
yeah, the reason why I don't do that is because of Summer, because she has to have it dark and quiet.
Yeah, Daniel's like that. He needs it dark
It's
and quiet.
it's
He's like
it's probably the
dumbfounded
most
that I can do
significant
that.
problem that we have, or difficult. Not problem. I mean, is it a problem? But it's a difficulty.
For most people, though, that has a lot to do with diet and exercise, your physical condition, and mental state. I mean, a lot of it's mental, too. You got to relax. Before you can go to sleep, you got to relax.
So let's talk about relaxation in the. All of a sudden, all you podcasters. So talk about relaxation, because every time that we study with Master Jason, especially, its number one rule is relax.
Relax. And that is true. Relaxation, tension is the enemy of efficiency. Mm-hmm. And if you're holding tension in your body, you're inefficient, number one. Number two, if you're holding tension in your body, then you're not relaxed. And if you're holding tension, you're exerting effort. And if you're exerting effort, you're stimulating. And if you're stimulating, you can't sleep. First thing you got to do to sleep is to breathe. And most people, little babies and little kids know how to breathe. That's why little kids, little babies, what
Now you're
have
back
you.
to Pink Floyd. Dark
Yes.
Side of the Moon.
Yeah, Dark Side of the Moon. There you go.
There's a song called Breathe. Do you know that album?
Yeah.
I know the album. I have
There
to
is a
hear the
song called Breathe. That's true. Yeah. It's that's a good album. But
It's a great
breathing
album.
is
That's
and
one of the
breathing,
albums I used to sleep to.
Yeah, is it? Yeah. That one and Days of Future Past by the Moody Blues. Love that album.
Oh.
Came out in 1967. Okay, back on the breathing thing. People breathe. Obviously, if you don't breathe, you don't live. But babies and children, up until they're 5 or 6 years old, know how to breathe properly. Most people don't know how to breathe. They breathe from the chest up, not from the abdomen up. The diaphragm, which is what actually causes your lungs to inhale and inflate, goes down and up. It goes up and down, and that causes your lungs to fill up. Inhale and exhale. When you breathe, most people breathe from the chest up. They do this. They breathe.
I've noticed.
And breathing in their chest.
Yeah.
So they're using maybe the top third of their lungs.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to kind of go down.
You need to breathe down
I was
into
taught
your
this stuff
abdomen.
when I was playing trumpet
Yes.
by the best instructor that I ever learned. We did these breathing exercises where you fill up from, you feel like you're filling up from your navel up. You have to think of it coming from your abs and even your lower abs. To take the deep breath and fill up. And we used to do breathing exercises to be able to do that.
This is funny because I saw a nutritionist and she was like telling me, you have stress, you need to deal with your stress. And then she's like sent me all these YouTube videos on breathing techniques. She's like, you have to work on your breathing. It'll release all your stress. I was like, huh. Didn't ever realize that. So yeah,
That and
makes
frankincense.
Yeah.
Frankincense.
But we are taught as young kids to breathe improperly, to breathe tension, to hold, well, to hold tension, to hold stress in our bodies. And the first thing you got to do to relieve that is to breathe properly. Because if you're not breathing properly, that in and of itself is stress, is tension, is tightness.
Well, when Master Jason comes in and leads, that's the first thing we're doing is we're doing the breathing stuff.
All right.
And breathing is critical. You got to breathe down into your lungs. You breathe from the diaphragm up. And doing so the first few times, if you've never done that or haven't done it since you were a child, you start doing that, you're going to start releasing and getting a lot of crap from the bottom of your lungs coming up. Be lots of coughing, lots of expulsion, lots of crap coming out of your lungs just laying down there and getting fermented. That's where pneumonia comes from. That's where a lot of, I can't even think of the word, but breathing illnesses come from. Is people don't breathe properly, so you got all this air and this crap on the bottom part of your lungs that's not getting changed, not getting exchanged. It's collecting down there, and it causes problems. If your body is not getting properly oxygenated, your body is very inefficient. You don't get enough air, oxygen to your brain, your muscles, your digestion, and whatever else is going on in your body, then you are not going to work efficiently and you are impeding your healthy lifestyle.
That's why exercise and doing things like running or sprints or something that gets your heart rate up and gets you breathing
Yes.
is so critical, because you've got to get your lungs engaged and working, and your heart.
And the thing is, and Master Dale, when we were learning how to breathe, if you want to call it that, Master Dale says this is not a beauty contest. We're not holding our abs in so people, if your stomach sticks out, who cares? You're learning how to breathe. Breathe down. When you breathe down and you breathe properly, your abdomen's going to expand because your diaphragm is pushing down and pushes all those organs out away from the center of your body. You can inhale, you'll take in more air, more oxygen. It'll be a much more relaxed process, and that's what you got to do first. That's the first step in relaxation, is learning how to breathe. And I can't stress that enough. If you don't relax, if you don't breathe, you can't relax.
Right.
And if you can't relax, you can't be efficient. And that goes with martial arts, that goes with singing, that goes with dancing, that goes with marksmanship, target practice, whether it's
Exactly.
guns, archery, doesn't matter. It goes with anything that requires focus and concentration. If you're not relaxing, you're not going to be able to do it well, period.
I love sitting with people like Master Robert, who are literally are masters at their craft, and I want to validate exactly what you just told me. My point of initiation for every shotgun shot that I'm going to do is a breath. And Lanny Basham,
I saw you doing that too
yeah,
when I went out there with you.
And Lanny Basham, and one of my one-on-ones that I had with him about mental process, he goes, tell me exactly the full mental process that you're going to. And he goes, what is your point of initiation? And I go, I don't know. And he goes, I strongly suggest that you make it a breath. And from that moment forward, that's what I did. And that's exactly what I do. And it works phenomenally well. And also, I will tell you this, and now I'm just now realizing this. God, I love this podcast sometimes because I really grow from it, is I am the most relaxed and the most happy and the most at peace on that skeet field. And I just realized, oh, well, of course I am. It's the only place that I'm intentionally breathing, and I'm intentionally doing that breath. And it's an intentional moment of notice, and I get that peace, and then I go into that, and it's a very zen process when I go through the shots. And the shots are always the same based on each point that we are on the field. You're exactly right. Breathing, so critical.
It is. And again, without the relaxing breath, and that is a full fill your lungs breath, and that's breathing from the bottom up. You got to let your diaphragm expand. You got to let your stomach stick out, your liver, your spleen, whatever is sticking out, let it go. Because if you're not doing that, you've got air trapped in your bottom of your lungs that is not getting cycled, and if it's not getting cycled, it's getting stale. And you've got mucus settling in the bottom of your lungs, it's not getting moved or getting out. And that's going to lead to respiratory problems, be it an infection. Ultimately, it could even be something more serious, emphysema, something like that, even though you never smoked a day in your life. You've got to breathe cleanly and completely to keep your lungs clear, to keep your body as efficient as it can be. And until you start doing that, relaxation is impossible. You got to breathe. And that is critical to anything you're going to do and do well.
Yeah.
So let's go back to Bruce Lee for just a second.
Okay? Good old Bruce.
The 1-inch punch.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's real?
Yep. You want me to show you?
Nope. Well, not on me.
Who then?
Do we have a dummy?
We need to get a heavy bag in here, don't we?
got a dummy.
Yeah, we got a dummy right here. Where's
Yes,
Barry? Call it Barry. Get it over.
Barry, come here for a minute. Poor Barry. Barry's such a good guy. He is just a great guy.
He is.
But yes, a 1-inch punch is real, and it's explosive. It's going from totally and completely relaxed to a complete and total focus of an explosive energy in one spot. And yes, it takes practice. It takes focus. It takes concentration. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody do it on the first try. Certainly somebody who is not a martial artist, who has a martial arts mentality and an execution and so forth, and knows how to, I don't know if that's even a right term and words to say it, but knows how to use their body to its maximum effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, pull somebody off the street and try to teach them a 1-inch punch, you're going to be there for a while because they're not going to be able to do it. Because one of the things about martial arts, and especially martial arts taught from their original intent, a defensive, combative art, first thing you've got to do is to relax. And the first thing to relax is you got to breathe. Once you get that down, then you got to get your foundation in order. You've got to have your feet flat on the floor. You're not leaning forward, backward, left to right. Your weight is evenly distributed between your 2 feet. Your knees are slightly bent. Your shoulders are relaxed. Your abdomen is relaxed. Everything is you're not limp. There's a difference. If you're limp, you're going to fall to the ground. Mm-hmm. But you are relaxed. Mm-hmm. Once you get that down, and then you start teaching your body how to move. And your body moves as a single unit. Your hips don't move by themselves. Shoulders don't move by themselves. Your arms don't move by themselves. Everything moves together, so you're engaging your entire body in whatever this strike is. Because that way, I've got all my entire weight from the ground up behind this strike. It's not just relying on how much I can bench press. Because right now, it ain't much, trust me. Used to be. There was a time I could bench press well over 300 pounds, but that was some time ago.
You used to be a bodybuilder or weightlifter? Or?
I was a fitness nut. I would run 6-7 miles in the morning, lift weights for an hour, then I'd go to work. And depending on what time of year it was, I'd either swim a mile or do a step aerobics at lunch. And then after work, I'd lift weights for another hour and a half.
Dang.
And my bench press regimen was I'd do a set of 12 at 135, set of 12 at 185, set of 10 at 225, set of 10 at 245, a set of 8 at 265, and 3 sets at 285, as many as I could do. Then I'd drop down to 225, do as many as I could do. Then drop down to 185, do as many as I could do. Drop down to 135 and do as many as I could do. And that was just my bench press. And my military press was a similar workout. And then I would do all my shoulder exercise. I tried to do all my pushing motions on one day and all pushing muscles on one and pulling muscles on another day. So the pulling muscles were together and pushing muscles were together. Pushing muscles are glutes, quads, triceps, and intercostal complex, or pectorals, and delts. Pulling muscles are triceps, lats, traps, hamstrings. Did I say biceps? So I tried to group them so that I was doing the same thing, and it seemed to work pretty well. But and I did that for about 25 years. And in the process, I developed severe arthritis in my hips, shoulders, wrists, knees, ankles, and feet.
That is the problem with weightlifting.
Well, in the running, too. Running certainly didn't help. In fact, the running was probably as bad or worse because it was the pounding.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't sprinting. I wasn't jogging, because my typical run pace is about 7.5, 8 miles an hour.
See, I like to do long walks, like 3-mile walks. I find it easier on my joints.
It is.
If I add running in there, I'm hurting so
harder.
bad
Yeah.
the next day. But
And
if I
that's-
just do the walks, I'm not like that. I'm not
And
in pain.
sprinting is easy on your joints. It's jogging and the pounding that's the hard.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had cut the running back to 2 or 3 miles a day, I would have done better.
Mm-hmm.
And my orthopedic surgeon at the time kept telling me to slow down, and I wouldn't do it. And now I'm paying for it. When I finally had the knee replacement, he said I'd worn an inch and a quarter of an inch of bone off both knees.
Oh gosh.
So we're about to have Dean Carnazes, the ultra marathon man, on the podcast. And he doesn't own a car. He's run tens of thousands of miles. And
Some people
he'll
doesn't bother.
He'll run
Yeah.
double marathons in a single day. Day after day after
I
day.
can
after
already
day after
I can
day.
already tell you I don't like this guy. I'm kidding.
But I am so curious about his physical health and how he does it.
Some people,
Yeah, there's some people it doesn't affect
yeah.
like others. I mean, some people are more prone to arthritis. Some people, it's genetics that plays in.
Yeah.
'Cause
He
in-
could be just somebody that has just great genetics and his body just can take
in
it.
preparing for his show, I have been listening to his audiobooks. I'm going to listen to every one of these that he's written. But I've been spending quite a bit of time working out and in the gym lately. And
Right.
when I'm listening to him, I don't want to stop. I don't want to leave because he takes you on these journeys with him through his stories that he's talking about in the marathon, and in how difficult it is for him. And the whole time you're thinking, just don't stop. Just don't stop.
Yeah.
Keep going. Keep going. And it makes me want to keep going as if I'm in it. So there's this machine where I'm pulling down on a rope and then pulling up on the rope.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll do that for 45 minutes. I'll do all the way up and all the way down on the resistance. And then I'll go on the exercise bike, or I'll do the elliptical, or I've done
It's
different things. And
because
I'm
he's
thinking about
motivating you.
he is
it's
motivating me.
motivation,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I'm thinking about maybe I should actually start running. I've never been a good runner, but what concerns me is I don't know how to run. And this guy, Dean, obviously knows how to run, and I'm
You gotta invest in the right
of,
shoes.
well, the more I think,
Yeah.
the more I think about it, there's got to be a proper technique of running. There's got to be
It's
something
your
that you're doing.
breathing.
It's breathing and it's running, and there is a proper technique depending on how you're running. Are you running slow or are you sprinting? Sprinting, you're on the ball of your foot. If you're running, jogging, what have you, it's heel toe. Heel strikes first, then you roll over to your toe. The only thing that I would add to, you want to keep going, if your muscles hurt, muscle strain, what have you, that's from exertion. If your joints hurt, that's damage. Mm-hmm. If your joints start hurting, then whatever it is, either slow down or change something. But listen to your joints. I didn't. My knees were hurting long before I stopped, and I should have stopped. Like I said, I had worn a quarter-inch of bone off my knees.
The best thing for your body, though, is to walk at a fast pace, then sprint for a bit, walk at a fast
Yes.
pace, sprint again,
Rather
walk
than
at a-
jog, that is
because
true.
what you're doing is your heart is doing intervals. So you're going up and you're
so
bringing it down a
it's
little
HIIT
bit,
training.
and it's
High
yes,
intensity
It's
interval training.
exactly HIIT training, but you're doing it running and walking, and you burn more calories that way. But your body, like, I don't know how to explain it. When I was doing that for a long time, I would go, okay, I'm going to run these 2 mailboxes because our house is the length is
yeah.
farther. So I'll run 2 to 3 mailboxes. Then I'm going to walk 2. Then I'm going to run and again 3, and then do that. I mean, it's really good. I mean, your body, you just feel like, I don't know, after you get done, it's like
Oh, yeah, it's the adrenaline
the
rush.
energy.
Yeah.
The
you get out
endorphins
of
that
it.
are released from a good workout. It's addictive.
Well, I've been. I mean, you can probably see it because you saw when I was.
Oh, yeah, I can tell. I can tell.
I can tell
I can see it.
in your chest and your arms.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of rowing, and there's a book called "The
So
Power
you're
of
rolling,
One."
rolling,
the
rolling?
Power of One More, and it's an interesting book. But I kind of thumbed through it, and okay, I get it. the power of one more. Just do one more.
Yeah, just one more. Just one more.
And I would get to the end and I'd go, well, let me just do another minute. Well, you know what? The counter here, the random counter on the rowing machine, it's like tells you what your distance is supposed to be. I'm going, is that really? How does it know? But anyway, I'll be at like 9,200 and something. I'm like, well, you got to go to 10,000. And then you get to 10. Well, our ad's down. But you get to 10. You get to 10 and they're like, you know what? Why don't I just go to 11? And then you get to 11 and like, well, why don't I do 11,100?
Why don't I do 12?
And then let me go to 11,111, or something. You just keep just
pushing.
doing one more.
Yeah.
And then so now you're off that machine and like, well, let me just do one more machine. And then okay, it's one more of that. And then and you just keep kind of doing this one more. And then it's like, well, I went to the gym earlier today, but you know what? Let me just do one more workout here.
And that's good.
And I've been doing that to a large extent.
But you got to keep in mind too your life schedule. You got to have time for family. You got to have time to rest.
I'm acutely aware of that.
You know.
So I'm taking on one more project.
That's why he doesn't
There you go.
sleep.
That's what you need to do.
That's why
you're
you
not
don't
sleeping.
sleeping.
You got too much going on.
Yes. You're putting too much on your
Well, if
plate.
that's the sacrifice, then I'm okay with it. So,
Well, alrighty then.
so I think
Moving on.
So I'll break this news on the podcast. I think maybe. So it looks like we're going to start a talent agency.
Oh.
A talent agency?
Yeah, because we
What?
have.
I
So
mean,
so I've been doing some stand up,
okay.
and there is a comedian. He's been doing it for 15 years. And he needs a manager, an agent, and I have a plan for him to go and grow and be big, and he wants me to open for him. So maybe there's a little bit of secondary in that, but it's actually an excuse for me to do. At this point in my life, I'm able to execute on a whole lot of different things because of how I've learned how to be efficient with most things.
Right.
I'm very cautious in taking on any new projects because some of my projects just fail.
Right.
And you have to make decisions about, are we going to continue with this or are we not? Are we going to continue with this or not? How do we retool and how do we accomplish these things? But I've gathered in my life those different aspects like shooting, like kung fu, like exercising, working out, like successfully running a law firm, and successfully doing our podcast and how exactly we're going to do that and all the pieces and tools. And I've put a team together that allows me to be efficient in that. I mean, I run this household and the facilities and things here, and we have people that take care of all the different aspects of that. And it's just, I'm kind of one of those people. The more I do, and the better I do, the more I can do, and so it's a positive feedback cycle. And I'm just at a point now. There's a few things that I haven't got incorporated, which is if you see the guitar racks over here. Not practicing my guitar, not getting into that. But when I get into that zone, the best years that I've ever had were when I had athletics, the arts, and intellectual stuff operating. And I think the best year of my life, one of the best years of my life that I've had was my junior year in high school, where I went to All-State in 3 different things. Actually, like 4, I think. And it was music, swimming, and academics. So I was in all AP classes, did great, and that's the equivalent of financial in the law firm and the business stuff.
Right.
And then the physical stuff is still the physical stuff. It's not swimming now, but it's doing just different physical activities, and doing the shooting takes care of the competitive stuff, and music stuff I haven't really gotten into, but I suppose the podcast is part of that. So
Yeah, it's entertainment.
It's very similar. It's those 3 branches, and I've known that it's a 3-legged stool for me as a full developed person for me to do those things, and it has taken quite a bit of time. But my master plan is all coming together. My master plan before I went to law school was that I was going to do that exact type of entertainment endeavor, and I got some validation from some other lawyers of, well, if you're looking for an agent, you're looking for this. If it comes from a law firm letterhead, that's going to have a lot more credibility. And I was like, I knew it. And actually realized no one's ever actually confirmed that to me. But the reason why I went to law school was I figured, you've got to, I think the lawyers are the ones really making the decisions in this, because the lawyers are the agents, and the lawyers are the higher level business people, or they're at least advising the higher level business people. Why wouldn't I want to function on that level of society? And if you're going to give a contract to somebody, who are you going to give a contract to? Some kid that's maybe going to fall off the deep end, hasn't got a proven track record, and might go out, on drugs or who knows what.
Right.
Or are you going to give it to somebody who's gone through the grueling obstacle course and proven that they can accomplish and persevere and stick through something and have a track record of success? Who are you going to bet your money on? Well, I'm going to go there. Plus, I also want to know who the lawyers. I want to know what the lawyers know, and I want to know who the lawyers know, and I want to be able to function in that circle. That's the majority of why I went to law school. I just happened to find myself into the business of a law firm because I needed something to do, and people were begging me to help them, and I had the ability to help them. So I went through a many-year endeavor of, okay, I'll do that for you, and found myself as an entrepreneur. I went to law school as that entrepreneur, but found myself as an entrepreneur who happened to follow the opportunity and bring my passion with me in the area of family law, estate planning, and probate, and in helping people there. And now, because of that, now I can do pretty much anything that I want to. And if I stopped practicing law altogether, I still would be fine and would find another endeavor. My income would immediately match, and you have a number of different things. And I've realized I can kind of do whatever it is that I want. So part of the endeavor was, what is it that I really want to do? And how do I maximize what I give to the world? Because if I maximize what I give to the world, then as a natural consequence to that, I will have everything from the world that I want. So you don't focus on what it is that you want from the world. You focus on, what can I give to the world? How can I do it in a very efficient manner? And I've taught myself years and years and years how to monetize and give things in an efficient and effective manner that are profitable, that profit everybody that's involved in the project. Because, for example, on an entertainment thing, if we're going to do a show and we're going to charge $30 for a ticket, or $100 or $300 for the ticket, we're going to put up a show that is going to be worth that money to them, and they're going to gladly exchange $300 or $30 or $100, whatever it is, for the ticket. That they're going to be happy to exchange that for having in exchange for a good time. So they're going to be benefited by that, and then we're going to be benefited by being able to do whatever it is that we're going to do in a profitable manner. And I see there's a thing. Do you know the not the Laffer curve, not the J curve, the Dunning-Kruger effect? Do you know what that is?
I might know what it. I don't know
you
it
probably
by that name.
So there were two scientists, one named Dunning, one named Kruger, and they studied people's self-analysis of their own skills. And what they found, the effect refers to both ends. It's kind of what happens at American Idol. But people that are really, really good at something assume that because they're so good and it's so easy for them at that point, that everybody must know, and they take their talents for granted. And then there's people who have zero level of competency that think that they are God's greatest gift, which is the people that just go in and they think that they can sound great, and Simon Cowell will sit there and go, "Have you ever recorded yourself and listened to that?" So what I noticed was in working and seeing the struggle that a lot of these comedians are going through, and then I look at it and go, why aren't you just doing this and this and this and this and this? Because then you'll get there. These are the concrete steps, as opposed to their plans and what they're doing they just don't know how to do it. Mm-hmm. And for me, I thought I've known for decades how to do this, and I just haven't done it because I kind of lost interest in it. But now a lot of those things have come back to me, and I'm seeing the need, and I'm going, look, why don't you get back to what it is that you really did want to do before law school burned you out? Law school was not, I'm burning the candle from both ends. Law school was, I threw the candle into the fire. I am ablaze in an oven, and I'm, Who was it? Was it David that got thrown in the lion's den?
Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel.
Daniel got thrown in
Yeah,
the lion's den.
I was Dana thrown into the furnace. You know, it was,
So Shadrach,
and-
Meshach, and Abednego that went to the
exactly,
furnace.
Yes.
exactly. And so, I was totally burned out and didn't know what I wanted to do coming out. And I followed the path of least resistance, and people were asking me to do stuff. And then I kind of, it was interesting just how the path went, but it wasn't that I was really at the wheel of what I thought I was driving my career. And then a lot of it was dealing with what it is that's in front of me, solving these different problems, and coming out of that and growing to a point to where now, from the fundamental basis of success and the things that I've developed that help dozens and dozens of people to thrive, and to where, because of all of these different things, I can deliver things that require a proper balanced amount of my time and effort and energy to do. I've just learned how to do things, and at this point in life, I'm still both young enough but old enough and wise enough to be able to do all these different things. So it's an interesting balance. And also, you've noticed I haven't made a lot of the classes lately. And
I have noticed.
yes, and I've noticed that too. So all right, so we're going to have this conversation tomorrow in class. Is because Dan and I mentioned, because I was frustrated about it, because it's the timing of the week of when we're doing things. And so Dan mentioned, and I'm going to ask, because I think it'll be a lot easier for me to make classes if we could move our classes to Sunday evening as opposed to Saturday morning. We'll ask everybody. Would that work for you? But I don't know. One of my problems is Saturday mornings are really problematic for me. And this year I am traveling once a month at a minimum for ski competitions. So
Okay.
I'm going to be making about 3 out of 4.
Okay.
And we'll leave the class as it is. You know,
Sunday afternoon, the only problem with Sunday afternoon is
or evening, like
Sunday evening.
like 6 o'clock would be ideal.
we couldn't do it for 2 hours. We can make it 6 to 7, 7:15, 7:30 maybe.
I could maybe do 5 if we want to
Okay.
do 5 to 7 or something.
5 to 7 would probably be okay.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I could make.
Let's do this because I think
on Saturday,
I think
I go see Mom twice a month.
I see
every other Saturday.
I see our podcast audience in mass blanking out as we're
saying,
sitting here.
why are
No
we-
one-
yeah,
why
why
are
do
we
we
watching
care?
some
Why
guys?
are we
some
talking
Yeah,
about
make
the
up a
schedule?
schedule. Yeah, we can talk about
So
this
anyway.
later. Yeah.
Okay, to the editor, let's
Yeah.
edit out the part where we're talking about the schedule.
Scratch that.
So, the one. Okay, so
We were talking about breathing and relaxation.
yes, breathing.
Okay.
There was an instance where Master Jason, we were doing a lesson, and he goes, "You're tense, and you're doing," and I know exactly what the move is, and I can anticipate the move and react to the move. But he goes, "If you relax, I can't. You get me every time." And so I did it, and I figured out how to do it relaxed, and it was just shocking to me. I believed him in my mind,
Right.
But I didn't believe him in my feelings.
Right.
Because part of my mind and my emotions were like, how can that possibly be effective in doing that? But it was, and it wasn't anticipatable. So the whole aspect of relaxation just fascinates me.
And relaxation, if you tense up, tense your body and try to walk, it is awkward. Doesn't work. Walking, because we've done it all our lives, is a very relaxed operation.
That's a good point.
It's a very relaxed operation. We don't think about it. We just do it. In fact, think about it well enough. What I need to do next, you probably will stand there for 15 minutes trying to figure out how to walk. But if you just do it, it just flows right on through. So relaxation is critical and to be an effective martial artist, because when you're relaxed, you can move efficiently. When you're tense, you cannot. Tense up your arm and move it. Yeah, that's not worth a damn. But if you're relaxed, you can move it efficiently and smoothly and randomly, even if you want. So relaxation is part of being able to generate power. And I'm not talking about strength. I'm not talking about going to the gym and lifting weights. I'm talking about generating power so you can effectively make a strike. and allows you to use your entire body rather than just your arms or your shoulders to execute that strike, whatever that strike might be. I don't know. Could be a punch, could be an elbow, could be a kick. I don't care. Doesn't matter. If you're relaxed when you execute that strike, then you're going to be a much more effective in delivering the power to your opponent, attacker, bad guy. Label him however you, or her however you wish. But relaxation is critical to success as a martial artist. First thing you got to do is breathe. Second thing you got to do is relax. Third thing you got to do is work on your foundation. Because if you don't have a solid foundation, doesn't matter how big or strong you are, or how relaxed you are, you're not going to be able to transfer any power. And I use this as an analogy. Think of the strongest man in the world contest. Are they ever wearing roller skates when they're trying to push that refrigerator up a ramp?
I don't think I've seen that, but that would be interesting.
You know,
Yeah.
because if they are, they're not going to get that refrigerator up a ramp because they have no foundation from which to work.
Right.
You've got to have a solid foundation. And Master Dale used to say it, power comes from the ground up. And from that perspective, it does. If you're not solidly anchored to the ground, you have no foundation. And if you're not solidly anchored, you have nothing from which to work. I think it was Archimedes said, give me a firm place to stand and a fulcrum and I can move the earth, talking about leverage. But he had to start it with a firm place to stand. Mm-hmm. Okay? You got to have that. So those are the first primary things in martial arts. You got to breathe, got to relax, got to have a foundation. And getting that foundation is a learned technique, if that's the right word, because most people by default don't have a firm foundation. They are not balanced. Your head needs to be over your shoulders over your hips over your ankles, and your weight between your feet. You were getting ready to ask a question?
What advice do you have for people who want to get into martial arts but are not in martial arts yet?
Oh my gosh. Do a little bit of homework. Unfortunately, Kung Fu San Soo is not a widely known art. And you get out of California and it's scattered. There's very little of it around. We've got an operational school in San Antonio. I believe there's one in Houston. I'm not sure if there's any active schools in the Metroplex anymore or not, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex or not. The last one I knew of, because I shut mine down in 2015. The last one I knew of was in Plano, and I think that one shut down prior to COVID. But do some research. If you just want to get some exercise and learn how to move, then just about any martial arts school will do. If you want to learn how to defend yourself, make sure they teach self-defense, not point sparring. And just because self-defense is stenciled across the door or the window doesn't mean it's a self-defense school.
Yep.
Do some research. If they teach you to limits, you can do this, this, and this, but you can't do this, that, and the other thing, it's not a self-defense class. Because when you're out on the street and your life is on the line, there's nothing that's off limits. If the bad guys played by rules, they wouldn't be bad guys. So why should you play by rules when you're going to put yourself at a disadvantage? So really, that's it. Do some research. And again, just about any martial art, if it's taught from its roots of combat, then it's probably going to be a viable self-defense tool. If it's not taught from that perspective, if it's taught from a sporting perspective, then it's not a viable self-defense tool because they're teaching you to pull punches. They're also teaching you to limits. And again, I go back to that woman that had beautiful, beautiful form on all of her kicks, whether it was a straight kick, a roundhouse, a spin kick, didn't matter. Her form was spot on, but the power just wasn't there. And in spite of everything we did, it never was.
So speaking of forms, in Sansu Kung Fu, we do forms.
Correct.
And so what are the purpose of forms? Why do we do forms? What are forms all about?
Okay, in the original of the art, we go back to Kuan Yin Monastery. Somebody who was taking up Kung Fu joined the monastery. They would do forms probably for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years before they actually ever practiced with a partner. Forms are always the first thing you learn, not the second thing you learned. The purpose of forms is to teach you how to move, transitions between this move and that move to get from point A to point B, teach you balance, teach you breathing, relaxation, teach you targeting. Excuse me, pardon me. Teach you targeting, the proper use of tools, how to properly make a fist, how to properly make a chop, how to properly kick, whether it's a straight kick, a roundhouse kick, a spin kick. Well, can't ever remember a form having a spin kick in it. But roundhouse kicks and straight kicks are often there. Because there is a proper way to make a fist. There is a proper way to chop. There is a proper way to use an elbow strike. There is a proper way to kick. And real self-defense, you almost never kick with the top of your foot. Those bones are really sensitive, and if you don't believe me, go to the corner of the wall and kick it with the top of your foot. It hurts like if you kick it very hard, you're going to break the bones and end up in a cast for several weeks, months, maybe, I don't know. But the bones of the top of the hand, these are tarsals. No, these are carpals, because this is carpal tunnel. No, these are metacarpals. The wrists are carpals. These are metacarpals. The bones of the top of the foot are metatarsals. Those are built to take a force. They're not built to take a beating. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you take these bones, you go up to the corner of a wall and tap it, you're going to feel some discomfort. It's going to hurt. That's not what these bones are for. These bones are for this. These bones are for pushing. These bones are for gripping. They're not to take a beating. So hitting with the back of the hand right here, back slap with the fingers, that's different. Back slapping with the hand. Kicking with the top of the foot, and especially if you're going to kick somebody in the head, that's pretty hard. You're probably going to break your foot. So there is a proper way to kick. There is a proper way to punch. There is a proper way to chop. There's a proper way to poke. We use pokes. Take these two fingers, shove it in the eye socket up to the second knuckle. It's going to cause somebody to drop. But the reason you have a slight bend in your fingers is because if you miss the eye socket and hit the forehead, your fingers will collapse. Now, it might hurt a little bit, but if you got them bent this way and you do it, they're going to bend backwards, or they're going to break and sprain, and you're not going to be able to do a dadgum thing with that hand for however long it takes for it to heal. So always have your fingers slightly bent, whether it's a chop, whether it's a poke, whether it's a spear, whatever it is, fingers are always slightly bent. Protect your hand. And there are others that will argue with me and say, no, that's not correct. You should do it this way instead. And we could sit again across the table from each other. I'm not going to convince him or her, and she or he won't convince me. But that's the purpose of forms. Forms are for fighting, but they are not fighting, because the form is based on an unrealistic confrontation. You got a guy in front of you, got a guy directly behind you, you got one to the right, one to the left, then you got one in the front left corner, one in the front right corner, one in the rear left corner, one in the rear right corner. And these guys are coming at you in a specific pattern, and you defend against those attacks. The purpose of that is to teach you the transition from going this way to going that way. Teach you the balance and the breathing and the timing and the tools used and the striking and the targeting and everything associated with fighting. So they are for fighting, but that's not a realistic fight. If you ever find yourself surrounded by a bunch of bad guys, do whatever it takes to get out of that circle. Mm-hmm. I'd rather have my back against the wall than somebody behind me. And that's really what forms are for. They're to teach you the foundation of the art. And again, it starts with breathing, the relaxation, the foundations, the footwork, then the striking, the targeting, the thought process, the focus. And as you do forms, when you start really getting into them, you're not just going through the motions, you're visualizing what's going on. You're seeing the targets, and when I reach up there and I strike and I chop to the side of the neck, I'm seeing that neck and feeling the contact and visualizing the reaction of that contact, the damage done, and so forth. And the visualization in workouts and in lessons is important, because some of the stuff we do can be unnerving, for lack of a better word. Somebody comes at you with a strike, you get out of the way, you block it, you grab it, and then you come across with a forearm strike right across the back of the elbow, and it snaps, and the elbow bends backward. You're going to feel that as you apply that pressure. You're going to feel it break underneath your pressure. That's going to be a sensation on your arm. You're also going to hear it. How is that mentally going to affect you? Are you going to recoil from that? Ew, that was gross. Or are you going to press forward, eliminate the threat, then worry about all the stuff afterwards? So visualization is important. Some of the stuff we do can get messy. Again, I hope God never allows me to be in a position to do that, to use it. But I hope that if I ever get in that position, that I will have the mentality, the focus, the will to survive, to protect family and friends, and I think I will. One thing we have to do as practitioners, doing it from a self-defense perspective, is to think about what we're doing and to even go over scenarios in our mind. And again, visualize what we're doing and how we're doing it and the effect it's going to have on that person that's causing the trouble. Could get messy. And that is true with any art that is a true self-defense combat art. And we call it self-defense. It's really counteroffensive. We don't start it, but we damn sure going to finish it. Just something to think about if you're thinking about self-defense art. Think about the entire package, not just the physicality of it. Think about the mental of it. Mm-hmm. Because you're going to have to face that mentality when you're in the moment. Should it ever come to pass that you're in that circumstance where you got to beat the tar out of somebody to protect yourself.
So I want to start in 2023. We're going to have all of our guests ask a question that we will ask our next guest. So for whoever that guest is going to be, what question do you have that you would want to ask to that guest?
Well, I could kind of generic question, because depending on who it is, the question could be different. For somebody, just a random question. For a random person, I think a good question to ask is, why did you choose this particular profession, this particular art, this particular activity as your focus to excel in, as your hobby or whatever it might be? Because that may influence or give somebody else insight on something they want to do, even if it has nothing to do with what they're doing. But it gives them an insight as to what criteria, what should I be thinking about before I choose what it is I'm going to do or be.
Well, Master Robert, thank you for joining us today. And please like, subscribe, give us some comments, ask questions. Tell us whether you love us or you hate us. Either way, it helps us if we're talking about us. So thank you very much. And we've got our merchandise link is working well, and we've got some Jennifer Hardy Har Har shirts. And apparently they're now made a Lawyer Dana shirt, and maybe we will wear these one day.
Yes.
I think you should.
Yeah. Maybe I'll wear it to class.
That'll work.
Get one.
That'll work.
So what if they go, shoot for the face, is it here or
I think we need to give them
Shoot for the
to
center of
our
mass.
guests as gifts.
center of mass? What?
Center of
We
mass.
should give them to our guests as gifts.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, we'll start doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll bring you
Okay.
one.
All right, I appreciate it. And for those of you who are listening, if you have a martial arts question, send it to Dana, because he knows how to get a hold of me, and I will do my best to answer it.
Awesome.
Awesome.
And
Thank
put it
you.
you can actually ask it in the question in the comments of the show, and we'll give you the link to the show, and you can answer questions right there on YouTube.
Oh,
in the
okay.
chat.
That'll work.
Awesome.
Perfect.
That would be good.
We'll see you in the next episode of the Lawyer Dana Show.
Bye.
Thanks, y'all.
The Lawyer Dana Podcast.